Surprise! I bet you didn't expect to see us back so soon, eh? So, a few days to go until we move to the cottage. Can you believe that? Time's actually flown quite quickly, hasn't it?
It has.
So what we've been doing is, as I said in the last video, we've been discussing some of our ideas and concepts on how we'd like to have the interior of the cottage. So our thoughts have turned more towards the interior design aspects and some of the decor ideas and how we'd like to have things a little bit further down the line once we move in and we've settled in a little bit. I had intended including this in the last video, but I ran out of time, and I try and keep these videos to around 30 to 40 minutes. And by putting this in the previous video would have made it over an hour in duration, and that's way too long. I don't want to bore you guys to death. So what we'll do is we'll jump back and go through some of our ideas with you.
It's looking a bit bare in here.
It is, isn't it?
Where's all the plants gone?
Doesn't it look strange with everything gone?
Benji, you unsure?
It feels really echoey as well.
It's because the plants deaden the sound of everything. Oh well, that's one room almost stripped.
It's quite sad almost. My little office. It'd be sad to leave it. I just need to try and recreate it in the new place.
You've got the boiler shed, be grateful.
That'll do. Boiler shed might be bigger than this office.
What do you think, Benji? You packed?
Anyway, so I've got something to show you. So, as some of you may know, or may not know, Godwin Vintage, our little kind of side gig where we do the furniture upcycling and the upcycled lighting and things like that. As a spin-off to that, we also offer, we also do interior design services. So as a designer myself, I've designed spaces for clients in the past. The last one I was working on was a couple down south who just purchased an old Victorian house, and they were completely renovating it and hired me to design many of the rooms within there. So now that the packing is pretty much done, all but the essentials, Adam and I, our thoughts have turned to some of the interior spaces in the cottage and how we can design them, how we would like them, how we would put our own stamp on them. So I've come up with some concepts, some mock-ups. So Adam, if you want to grab a seat and we can go through these.
Let's have a look then.
Right, so this is the living room as it currently is, right? So obviously you recognise this this picture, and all we have to work with is the photos from the estate agent's website, because obviously we haven't been able to gain access to the property again yet to take our own photos. So what I've done is I've just come up with some ideas and modified the photos from the estate agent's website to create mock-ups of my ideas, just to give Adam and you a flavour of what I have in mind. So this is currently how it is. Obviously the current vendor, this is their furniture and everything. You've got this gorgeous spiral staircase here. You've got this strange little step up here, and I think this is because it was 2 cottages knocked into one, or
3 cottages knocked into one. So that's where an original wall would have been, and then that next height would have been where the next cottage starts, because it's slightly on a slope on the hill.
Yeah. So you kind of come in, so the entranceway is in this little hallway here. You come in, you've got this gorgeous kind of wooden piece, which I think
they said it came out of the church from next door.
So that's really cool. So we're going to keep that as an original feature. You've got this strange big step up, which, as Adam said, because it was several cottages knocked into one, the cottages were obviously on different levels. and then you've got these little steps coming down, and obviously it's fully carpeted, which is fine. Carpet would probably make the place far more cosy than a stone floor or wood flooring. It's just not our vibe though. We will probably at some point in the future swap that out for a wood flooring, or well, maybe not stone floor. Stone floor would be nice, but it'd be
freezing.
It would
The thing is, underneath that, I think it's concrete, so we might need to do an insulated floor, so like a level of polystyrene, and then chipboard, and then new floor on top, because then you'll have a much warmer floor rather than just concrete.
Yeah. And then you've got a little window here and identical window on the opposite side here, which you can't see. It's just out of shot. And then over this way somewhere is a door leading through it to another little hallway and the porch, and then beyond that is the kitchen. You've only got one pendant light in here, and that's this little. You can just see the lampshade up here in the top corner. So rather than being in the middle of the room, which would be more conventional, maybe in the old days, this is just how they did it. But we would probably swap that out. So, are you ready for my ideas? Here we go. Obviously, it doesn't look photorealistic because it isn't a photo, it's a mock-up. The idea of this is it's a concept, and I do this with all of my clients when I'm designing spaces for them. I take a photo of the original space as it currently is, then overlay it with imagery and graphics to give them an understanding of how the space could look before they go ahead and spend thousands of pounds actually doing it, and they may not like it. Do you know what I mean? So at this early stage, it gives them a good understanding of my ideas, and anything that my clients don't like at this point, we can easily swap out. They haven't went out and spent money and bought things. So as you can see, the carpet's gone. Whether or not that is the right thing to do or the wrong thing, I'm sure with the carpet we'll keep the cottage warmer, but as a designer, I'm all about the aesthetics as well. I'll just wear an extra jumper. I'll wear an extra woolly jumper. If it's a bit colder...
Yeah, but that's when you do the insulated floor underneath that wooden floor, which would still keep it warm.
Yeah. So carpet's gone. We've got a nice wood flooring and a large rug there. So that's a William Morris pattern. What do you think of that? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a good start.
So we've kept this kind of step up. There's nothing that can be done about that. It is what it is. But we've added I've added kind of like paneling across it, all the way across. Painted it. This is actually the same colour as the main front door, or the storm doors rather. It's the same colour, which we thought would look quite nice. Obviously, you can see we've kept this kind of wooden thing from the church, and what I've done is I've installed floor to ceiling cabinetry here, because we have so much stuff. I have so many books and things, it's unbelievable. But what I also thought is this would make a really cool drinks area, like a little whiskey area or something. You could even have a little table and chairs down here. I think there would be space for that, and this could be a little whiskey snug or something. But primarily just that storage. I think, if we went for just a freestanding cabinet like this, you're not really utilising all of that space there. And because we have so much stuff, this would really maximise that space in terms of storage. And obviously plants make any space look better, don't they? Just stick a plant in and it looks amazing. So that keeps Adam happy as well. He's the plant man. This is actually Benji's chair that he currently sleeps on downstairs, but I've had it reupholstered. And that is our current Chesterfield sofa, which we will be taking with us. We're now no longer leaving that, so we will be taking it with us. And then I thought this cool kind of vintage industrial style coffee table, and all about upcycle. Well, we're all about upcycling and these vintagey things rather than buying new. We've got this kind of merchant's chest here with all these little cubbyhole drawers under the TV that would house all of the stuff, like, I don't know.
The random stuff that every house has.
Yeah, DVDs, even though we never watch DVDs these days. TV on this wall and reclaimed wood panelling on this wall, which would A, hide the cables and wires from the TV, so you don't have wires and things hanging down here, and B, it just kind of zones this area a little bit, because this is quite a big space. So my idea, like I said, was if we could have this as almost as a library, whiskey snug area in this corner, and then this area here would very much be about just chilling out, watching TV, watching a good film or whatever. I've moved. The pendant light is still here in the top corner, but I would like them in the middle of the room, beyond this part of the ceiling here, where this pendant light is. That part of the ceiling is a lot higher because that is part of the old cottage. So where it steps up, that ceiling obviously is higher as well. So that would be quite a cool space. But yeah, it'd be nice if we could have these kind of vintagey style, spherical ribbed glass lampshades, identical, one hanging here in the living room space, and then one hanging here in the kind of library whiskey snug space or whatever. I don't know. My only thoughts though are, I don't know if this part of the wall here to the left of the spiral staircase is wide enough to accommodate the TV.
So that's one thing we haven't been able to measure to work out. We're just kind of guessing.
And this is what has been a bit annoying, because we haven't been able to get in to take measurements for furniture or anything like that. I'm not even sure if the Chesterfield sofa will fit in, or if it'll fit through the small door, the hallway. It might be quite a tight squeeze. Adam's idea was the pub next door to.
I think it's going to have to go over the pub wall,
over the pub wall,
patio area, through the bedroom door, and then through the hallway, and then over the top of this.
Over this, yeah,
and then down it, because I don't think you won't get it through that porch, the angles.
Yeah, so we just
got to hope it doesn't rain.
That as well, but I was thinking more like, let's just hope the pub next door isn't full of punters drinking the beer and me and Adam traipsing through the beer garden with a Chesterfield sofa trying to...
It's alright, they'll come and give us a hand if they're there.
Trying to chuck it over the wall. That would be so embarrassing. But yeah, we'll make it work. But yeah, like I said, the thing we're not sure about is going back to the original image. See, they've got an armchair there, and there is a bit of a space. There's a radiator here, and they've got a lamp, obviously. It looks big enough, but you just can't tell until you're physically in the space. We don't want the TV to be jammed. The kitchen door is off to this side here slightly. So I don't know how far over the kitchen door is, because you can't actually see it in the estate agent's photo. And you don't want the TV jammed right up against the kitchen door. That'll look ridiculous. But anyway, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's good.
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Is there anything you're not sure about? Anything you would change?
Just like you said, I think we just got to get in there and physically see, does all that work in the space we've got?
Yeah.
How wide that top step is, depending on what furniture can go in there and how wide it can be or how long it can be. We've got to look at the electrics, see if it's feasible to move the lights.
Yeah, when I've worked on designs before for clients, and if I want to move the pendant light, if they don't have the budget to have an electrician come in and rewire it and move the electrical point for where the pendant light will be, one of the things I've done in the past is I've had like a chain or the flex kind of loop, and then a hook at the point where I want it to hang from. And that is very much something that they would have done in the olden days. So whether or not that's an option, if we can't move the power points for the lights, yeah. But in terms of style and decor, You quite like this, right? That's good. That's good. One of the things that kind of struck us when we first went to view the cottage was just how light and airy it looked for such an old cottage. So even though our current house where we live, I mean, you can tell just by behind us, everything is quite dark and moody, and it works well, especially for creating that kind of cozy space. I always say if you have a small space, don't worry about using darker tones in the decor, because it'll just make it kind of cocooning and nice and cozy. If you don't have much natural light, don't fight that. If you don't have much natural light, go the opposite and make it a cozy little snug instead. However, because this space is already nice and light and airy, my initial mock-ups, I did have this cabinetry at the back here painted in a dark Farrow Ball studio green, so quite a dark green. It just looked a bit too dark and dingy, and I feel as though it wasn't quite right for the cottage. Perhaps if it was a grand old Victorian house, then it definitely would have worked, because I've used those colours for designs for clients in the past. But yeah, I feel like for this space, keep it natural and nice and light and airy with, darker accents here and there. So like the darker wood, the rustic wood paneling, and obviously, the
You've got to remember on this wall as well, where the fire is, this is a stone wall, so that's a dark wall.
That's a dark wall in itself, yeah. So we do have dark areas as like a feature wall, which is why I kept the rest of it nice and light and airy. But I'm so pleased you like it.
That's good.
Anyway, so let's move on. So the next image is looking from the opposite end of the living room. So if you imagine that step up into what was the next door cottage, from here, we're kind of like up on that step where my cabinetry idea is, looking down. And you can see here that problematic stone wall. If you remember from the previous videos, all of the damp issues that we were talking about and it was stressing us out, it all stems from this stone wall. The damp specialist wanted to replaster this and damp-proof course it and everything, but we really, really don't want to do that because it is such a lovely feature. We don't want to plaster it up. The current vendors, the current owners have already plastered the other walls, which makes it look quite modern. We don't want it to look like a new build with all the walls plastered. We quite like that stone wall, don't we? Mm-hmm. As a feature. But also just what Adam was saying there about, by playing it safe, by going for the lighter tones, it works well because we do have that darker stone wall at the far end of the living room as well. They have this kind of open fire with its fire surround, and you can see they've currently got the TV in the corner here, which I don't really like. I don't want the TV in the corner. And there's the current pendant light. And this is the same idea, but obviously looking from the opposite end. The only thing I've changed here is I've moved the coffee table over to the side here, and I've moved Benji's chair over to here. Do you remember this area here was going to be the little potentially be the little whiskey snug area? I don't know, haven't figured that out yet. And I've got the two pendant lights here instead. So the first thing you'll notice is, once again, the carpet's gone. We've got this gorgeous William Morris style rug. But the first thing you'll notice is we've got rid of the open fire and the fireplace, and we've really opened that up and added a log burner stove there with a thick, chunky, rustic wooden mantle. I think that works better because it keeps the vintagey style, and yet it has a slightly more contemporary feel as well, because wood burning stoves are in at the moment. But also one of the main reasons we think we may swap the open fire out for the log burner is A, for practicality, and B, for safety. I've never lived in an old property before that has had an open fire or a log burner, but you have, because your parents live in a really old cottage, and that was one of the first things you said to me, wasn't it? About
Oh, absolutely. Open fires, you've got to have fire guards on when you go to bed and stuff like that. You've got to let it die down in case there's an ember spits out on the carpet and then your house goes up in flames. With a wood burner, it's much safer. You know, it's all contained inside. You can sort of keep it ticking over during the night, so it's still sort of, you know, there's just embers in the morning, and you can chuck another log on to get it going again. So it really keeps the house heated all the time.
Yeah.
So it just depends on when we look at that fireplace and I start ripping it apart, what we find under there.
I know. Hopefully it will be like this. And what we're doing is we kind of made, or in my head, we're making this a bit of a feature as well. So we'll have little downlight spotlights or LED strip lights or something in here just to kind of brighten this dark space if we were able to open this up. And I think it just makes it more of a feature, doesn't it? While still keeping that nice, cosy, rustic-y, oldie, worldy charm. And so just to remind you how the space currently is versus my idea. What do you think of that? Are you quite happy with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah? Good stuff. And the only other room I've done is the bathroom. Now, the reason I've only done the living room, well,
it's hideous, isn't it? It's like an 80s.
What? This is my design? This is my idea?
Well, I think you need to go back to design school. Because that's just what's going on.
Anyway, so I focused on the two rooms only, the living room and the bathroom, because the kitchen, to be honest,
it's not bad.
There's nothing really wrong with the kitchen. You will see the kitchen next week when we move in, so don't worry. And we're probably not going to do a lot with the kitchen just yet because we have bigger plans in mind where, and you'll see when we move in next week, you know, some of the plans are potentially reconfiguring the space somewhat and perhaps adding, you know, French doors out into the garden and things like that. But we'll look at that next week. So I don't really want to do too much with the kitchen just yet when we have bigger plans in mind. Otherwise, it's just wasting time and wasting money. And the bedroom's fine for now, but you know the living room and the main bathroom. This is an ensuite in the master bedroom anyway. So this is the main bathroom that guests would be using if they come round for a cup of tea or whatever. And obviously the living room, they are the spaces, and obviously the kitchen, but that's fine for now. So they are the spaces that people are probably going to see more often. Am I right? Yeah. So this is the reason I focused on the living room, because you know people are going to spend more time in the living room, and the main bathroom. Even though we'll probably won't use the main bathroom that often, we'll probably use the ensuite because that's what we do in this house. It's the main bathroom hardly ever gets used.
Apart from Benji.
Apart from Bath and Benji. But when we do have guests round and they ask to use the bathroom, you're not going to tell them to use the toilet in the ensuite. You're going to point them to the main bathroom. So that's why I focused on this. Anyway, as you can see, it's a little bit dated. I don't think this has been upgraded in quite some time, to be honest. It's fine, it's perfectly usable. It has a toilet, it has a basin, a bath and a shower. But it's just not doing it for me. Is it you?
No.
So, are you ready? This is my ideas. Quite a transformation, if I do say so myself. So I want to continue that rustic cottagey vibe throughout, and we're going to have to chip all of these tiles off the wall anyway. So what I was wondering is, if we take these tiles off the wall,
what we find underneath.
Will we find stone walls underneath? Hopefully yes, but knowing our luck, we won't. It'll be like breeze block. This will end up being a newer extension from the 60s or something like that. Anyway,
no, this is all original.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. That where the sink is an old doorway, I think, from where the one cottage would have linked to the back part.
Right.
Or it could have been a window. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, if we once we chip those tiles off, if there is a gorgeous stone wall behind it, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? But as Adam said, we'll just need to wait and see. So the main thing you can see here that is quite striking is this huge freestanding copper bath, which is absolutely gorgeous, isn't it?
Really nice.
Do you like that? Yeah. I've always wanted a freestanding roll top bath. And I think this would look stunning. The space where the bath currently sits is quite small. It's not a very wide space, but I have researched, and you can buy roll top baths, freestanding baths similar to this that aren't very long. They're quite short, but they are deep. They're a lot deeper than a standard bath, so that might work. The other thing I've done is I've got this kind of tongue and groove style paneling halfway up. Just because I didn't want it to completely look like a cave, which I think it would if every wall was completely left stone. So this kind of breaks it up a little bit. By having this horizontal line, in terms of design, what that would do is it creates the illusion that the room is wider by having this horizontal line. The furniture is all freestanding, so we've got the freestanding bathtub. The toilet is wall hanging, and this would be some kind of a vintage upcycled vanity unit that we would find and upcycle ourselves. So that would be wall hanging. And again, by having the furniture wall hanging in a small space, it creates the illusion that there's more floor space than there actually is. So it gives the impression that the room is slightly bigger than it really is. This little alcove here where the basin is, so you can see the original basin is a pedestal basin. Obviously rip that out and have this. But as Adam said, you can actually tell if this was a doorway through to the original cottage or one of the other cottages, you can see just how thick the stone walls are if they've used this now as an alcove for the basin. And you remember the rustic reclaimed wood planks behind the TV in the living room? Well, we've got them on the back wall here as well. And again, that's another design tip, having the design flow from one room to another. It doesn't mean to say have every room look exactly the same, but take elements from one room and continue them throughout. Huge copper round mirror here, and the two wall lights. You can see there's only a tiny little window here, so there's not an awful lot of natural light. So rather than fighting against that, just work with it. You know, it's always going to be not a very bright space, but by working with that and converting it into some kind of a cosy, luxury spa-like area, that could work. So yeah. So what do you think, Adam?
Looks good.
There's the original, and that's my idea. You quite happy with that?
Yeah. Just trying to work out in my head how to build some of that and how to make it all just disappear.
Well, this is the thing. It's, you know, these are just mock-ups. These are just concepts at the moment. They're just ideas. None of this might even come to fruition because of the logistics of it. You know, once we chip off these old tiles, God knows what it's going to be like behind it.
Might just be plasterboard, which is then on the wood panelling, and then you've got the stone wall behind. It might be onto solid plaster, which you've just got to chip through and then discover what's behind, which might be stone wall. It might, who knows? Yeah.
So anyway, so there you go. That's the two rooms that I've kind of thought about in terms of designs already, and it's been quite a challenge actually, because like I said, I'm literally just working with the images the estate agent have on their website. Usually when I'm designing a space for a client, I'll go out and measure the space and take hundreds of photos of the space, so I know exactly what I'm working with. A lot of this is just guesswork, you know. Will a freestanding bath even fit in this space? In the living room, as we said earlier, will the TV fit on that wall beside the spiral staircase? Who knows? It's all just guesswork at the moment until we actually get into the cottage and measure up. But wouldn't it be cool if it looked like this?
Be good.
Yeah. So, what did you think of our ideas for the decor in the cottage? Did you like them? Let us know in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. Adam actually likes them.
I did.
Believe it or not. Well, the next time we see you, we'll be in the cottage. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you once we've moved.
See you later. Wish us luck. I think we might need it.
Bye for now.
Come on, Benji.